had a website, but it wasn't, it was almost like a vanity project back then. Now it is like an entrance fee to have a business.
Good. Hey, I wanted to let you know that the Google guarantee, the Google ads, man, I'm getting 12 to 16 calls a week.
My goal is at least do 10 to 15 more years, grow it up, sell it for 40, 50 million, maybe more.
Today is April 13th, 2023, and my guest is Jon Sanchez. Jon is the co-owner and operator of True Frame Outdoor Structures, a construction company in Northeast Wisconsin that specializes in 3 and 4 season sunrooms, decks, screen rooms, helical pier and ground screw installation, room additions, flooring, siding, and believe it or not, more.
Woo!
In just over a year with Top Line Pro, True Frame has received 82 lead requests. I looked this morning through their website, a rate of almost 6 per month. So business is booming. Jon, we're so excited to have you on Titan Talks. Thanks so much for coming on and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
To kick things off, would love to hear about how you got started in construction and remodeling. Tell us an origin story.
Yeah, so I haven't been doing this too long in a comparison to other people in the field or in the trades per se. But it was 2013, it was my senior year of high school. I was actually full blown set, ready to go to college. School IDs, everything, like full blown. That was the path. That was the options, it seemed like, that they really pushed. Go to college, go to the military, or maybe find a bridge that you could live underneath, because that's just the world that we lived in back then. Well, it was kind of just an odd way of arrangements, and my construction teacher, actually, one of my my construction teacher in high school, he was looking for a sunroom. So he had some people come over and give him an estimate, and one of the guys that came over had mentioned to him that he was looking for help. So my teacher, Tomaszewski, he recommended me and told me I should go get a resume with the counselor. And that's kind of what started. Also, right out of high school, I worked for someone for about 8 years, and weird things happened there towards the end. And it was kind of just a split decision, kind of a jumping off the edge kind of thing, and started our own business.
So most of your training, would you say, came from the high school course, or you learned on the job those 8 years where you were working?
Yeah.
Tell us about your education and getting to be not only a professional in construction, but a true master.
Yeah, so I'd say all the education mostly came from on site in the field working, making mistakes. The mistakes are a huge thing for learning, because when they're embarrassing, you don't want to do them again, but you really seem to remember when you make a mistake. So I'd say on-site learning was the biggest thing for me. And over years, I mean, starting from that guy that was the grunt, really knew nothing. You get to kind of learn the smallest things and kind of evolve over years. And as people come and go in the business, or where I used to work, you get put in a place that you have to do more things. And just over time, you just keep learning.
What was the moment where it clicked for you, where you said, no, I don't want to go to college. This is going to be the path. This is better than that. What moved the needle as you were making the decision of whether to become a professional?
Yeah, honestly, the decision for me was just the opportunity. Before that opportunity arose, I just wasn't aware that was really an option. Something that wasn't really talked about or promoted well to the youth. So before getting the job, it was just a lot of promotion or talk about doing the education route. And until the opportunity came to get into the trades, it really just wasn't on my mind. But I mean, it didn't take long for me to really enjoy it, and just working with my hands, working outside. The work environment in the trades it's a good time. So it just stuck, and I kept with it, and now we're here.
I talked to painters, landscapers, a few construction people. They all seem to have family and friends in the industry. Was that the case for you, or Are you a unique?
No, my parents weren't in the trades. My grandparents were in the trade. I think my great grandfather, he was a carpenter, but I don't know much about what type of carpentry, but it's just something I think I just fell in love with it doing it. And as far as friends, I've made a lot of friends in the industry doing this kind of work. So those didn't influence me to get into the trades, but I guess maybe kept me here and made it more enjoyable.
Who would you say has been your biggest influence?
Business?
Yeah, since you started the business, was it 2021 or 2020?
2019, we started the business.
2019, where you started the business. Who's been your biggest influence since then?
Oh boy, that's a good question, Jonathan. And I don't know if I have a single answer, but just I think what influenced me to keep going is just the passion behind it. Really having passion for the builds, the projects, seeing the customers' reactions as things come to life per se on the job site, and just enjoying what you do. As far as like a specific individual or person that persuaded me or convinced me or kind of kept me motivated to do this, I don't know if I could put that on a specific person, but just the enjoyment of what I do is what's keeping me here.
Let's talk about business today. As I alluded to in the intro, business is booming. 80 plus job requests from the website. I took a peek at your Google presence, 5 stars all the way, with a lot of reviews recently. Almost 500 followers on Facebook, which is incredible for a construction business. Tell me, how many employees do you have working for you? Jobs on the schedule? Would like to dig into how you got those jobs. Let's hear about the business.
Yeah, so as far as employees, we got one guy that works with us. We're a very small company. And I really prefer that. I've worked for places that were multiple crews running. Maybe you have your office staff, your sales staff, your guys out on the job site, the owner, the regular business model per se. But we are a very small family company. There's 3 of us total. Me, my partner Mike, and then Nick. And I really enjoy the close-knit of it. I think the customer gets a really good experience as well, because typically the person that's selling for us is going to be Mike at the moment, and he'll even be there on the job site. It used to be both of us selling and both of us on the job site. So that salesperson that comes and meets you, greets you for the first time, and you guys talk about your ideas, things like that, is the same person that's going to be building for you. So you don't have a miscommunication in what someone else sold you and what someone else is building you, things like that. And I think the customer just gets more comfortable knowing the same person is going to be there from step 1 to step done.
I like that step 1 to done. I haven't heard that. That's good. Curious, how many jobs on the schedule, John?
At the moment, as of today, I think there's about 15. And for us, I mean, that takes us well into the fall.
Holy cow.
And as of right now, like for us around here, this is like when the busyness starts. As Nick was saying earlier, we've had a ton of leads come in, and we'll see what we can do with them. But yeah, we're pretty booked out at the moment.
So let's say I wanted to overhaul my deck. When's the earliest I could get in with you guys?
I'll say like 2028 when we get out there in New York. No, right now I think the next jobs are going into like September at this moment.
Okay. How did you get those jobs? Was it, 80 plus from the website, which is incredible. How else are you bringing in the new leads?
So right now we're seeing all the leads coming from the website. There is few from like past clients where they're like, oh, we want to add on or do something else, or my friend so-and-so wants something added on or something like you guys do. But I'd say a lot of the leads are coming in directly from the website. And it might be to Facebook, people seeing the photos that we post. I tag the website and everything, and it makes it a simple route for someone to get a hold of us, to go to the website and fill out the contact form and kind of take it from there.
Can you tell me about how your process has changed in terms of how you think about promoting the business, your online presence, getting out there for people in the community of Wisconsin to see? What did you do 2 years ago that you no longer do? And And what do you do now that's new?
Oh boy, that's another good question. As far as new things, I think it's getting easier now that we're more established than when we first started. So I don't say there's nothing specifically new that we're doing to attract new customers to kind of change the way we promote ourselves. But we've always kind of been ourselves from the beginning. But there was a point when we were at our beginning. So it was just being genuine, treating people fairly, treating people like you want to be treated when you work with someone. And I guess just people following along and then becoming a business that people recognize and trust. And as we progress into the future, that's kind of how we're going to continue to get business.
How do you balance serving your old customers, your current customers, with branching out and taking on new business? How do you think about that balance?
Like, how do we balance them in the schedule, or like who gets priority?
In the schedule, priority, all of that.
Yeah. So whether they're new customers or existing customers, people that we worked for in the past, I don't say anybody gets priority. It's kind of like a first come, first serve basis. And not that like old customers or existing customers aren't important, because they are. But we have timelines, we have schedules, we have promises that we've made to people, and you just get put on the list.
You mentioned you made some mistakes early in your career. Take us through, it could, take us through one that's not too embarrassing, or maybe that's terribly embarrassing.
Oh, it's a good one. We have a laser on site. It's a transit level, which levels out our floors, things like that. And it wasn't under the business, which is awesome. It was when I was working for someone, which is a good place to make mistakes when someone else pays for your mistakes. But I definitely got put into a lead position that I shouldn't have been in. And the funny part about it is I had this transit level. When you set up a transit, you set it down, you set up your beeper stick, and you don't move the transit. You let it sit there.
What is the nature of the project? What are you working on here?
We're building a deck pretty much on the side of a sunroom on the side of a cliff, with a deck that leads off both sides of the sunroom and then wraps the house. So it's a very involved project, and it's one of my first projects on my own. At this time, I think I'm like 21, maybe. Super shy kid, very introverted. And I'm working with these two like 40-year-olds that I'm bossing around per se, or giving orders to, which was very uncomfortable to begin with. But then I'm making this huge mistake. Well, the mistake was I'm moving the transit around. So as I move it, I changed the elevations, and I kept attaching my ledger board to the house, and it was all jacked up. I mean, I don't know how many times I did it before it just clicked. That's probably the most embarrassing mistake that stuck with me over the years.
What were the ramifications of doing that the wrong way?
A lot of times staring at a wall, figuring out what's going on. As for that, I mean, I didn't get fired or anything like that, but just a lot of questions, a lot of blank stares, staring at a wall like it had something to say to me.
But was it a costly mistake? Did you have to do everything over? I assume no injuries or anything like that.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it probably got figured out over the course of half a day, but it was just one of those things that, like I said earlier in the recording, when you make a mistake, it's so much easier to learn from that than to just like pick things up along the way. And it really sticks with you when you just have this dumb mistake, but you figure it out. I think that's the best way to learn. As long as you don't give up, you keep figuring it out. I mean, it'll work out.
You've been in the industry, John, about 10 years now. How have you seen it change?
I think it's just the quality or the experience for customers that they expect. Not that they want, but that they expect. There's a lot of people that do, in particular, what I do for a living. And social media shows homeowners, different ideas, designs, things like that. So there's a huge base for people to get ideas from. I haven't been in the industry for too long compared to others. Like what I've seen happen since I've begun to now, I think has kind of evolved with me. Like the first maybe 3-4 years, it was hard to understand the industry entirely. because I was learning it. But as I began to learn more, I think I became more involved and even more passionate about it. So I kind of learned as I became a part of the industry. So I kind of adapted with it. As far as noticing the changes, I think just like the customer experience is so much more important now. They want a good experience, and even for me, like I want the customers to enjoy the process. I feel like in my mind, carpenters or contractors have like a bad rep for screwing people over, being rude or blunt with people, things like that. And for me, I want it to be a good experience for people. I want them to enjoy what's going on. Um, I take it personal, like to work on someone's house and being a homeowner as well myself. Like when I go to someone's house, I look at it like, would I do this to my house? You really got to take care of them, and that's something that I think in the long run will pay off. So I guess ultimately to like answer your question, that was a really roundabout answer. What I've seen evolve is just the care for customers from what they expected from the past to what they expect now.
Did you see the pandemic affect things at all? How was being in business through all of that?
Yeah, that was an interesting thing for us actually, because we started the business in 19, and
Yeah.
I think we had like 4, 6, 8 months, something like that, before the pandemic was like first heard of. I'll never forget that day. We're like, okay, we're never gonna leave the house again. Like, we got to finish this job and get paid and go hide or whatever. But I mean, not to like lighten up what happened, because it obviously sucked, but people going home and spending more time at home has made a huge impact on the business, with people wanting to enjoy being at home more and finding ways to make their home more enjoyable while they're there.
And I imagine spending more time outside too, right? So deck repairs and all of that, I would think business for that has increased.
Yeah, we did see a huge demand in in maybe a year. The demand just went crazy. People want to enjoy being at home.
We have a ton of pros listening to this, thinking about maybe starting their own business, maybe going to college, maybe starting out in the trades. What advice would you offer to people thinking about just starting out?
Definitely a lot of learning curves, because we didn't have that general like business plan. But like if you're like 18, 19, you love the trades, you're like, I want to start my own business. Make sure you're very confident in what you're doing, what you're selling. Be comfortable with building or plumbing, electrical, whatever it is that you're going into. Be very comfortable, because you're gonna come across something where it's on you. You can't be like, I need help, or I need to bail out on this job when it is your job. You have to be very comfortable with what you're doing, and kind of feel unfuckwithable. Like, you don't want to be unsure of what you're really getting yourself into. And not to say like you need a business plan, but be confident that I like this, I'm going to be passionate about it. And I'll put the time and effort into making this what it should be.
Is this something you learned over time, or when you started out, did you have to learn some of this?
Oh, I definitely learned a lot. Business in itself, owning a business, is a whole different mindset than what you're doing in the business. I've learned a lot about dealing with customers, sales, the backside of a business that's almost more involved and time consuming than what you're doing for business. Like for us, building decks and sunrooms. But I've learned so much in such a small period of time. It's kind of amazing.
Tell us a little bit about that. Just thinking about, running a business. Of course, different set of skills than building a deck. But in order to have a construction company, equally important. Walk us through what you do for TrueFrame in terms of steering the ship from a business perspective.
Yeah. So just the whole sales aspect of it is a huge deal. To know how to deal with people, treat people, communicate with clients, potential clients, things like that. I feel like customers are very understanding that everyone is busy, but they still want to be treated fairly, So just understanding that your time is just as valuable as the client's time. So So that was a huge learning thing for me, because I never was put in that place. I don't come from a sales background or a business background, anything like that. I didn't go to school for this. So it was kind of go and learn as things happen in front of you, which might sound intimidating, but it wasn't that bad. It was just constantly being willing to adapt and listen and learn from others.
Are there any metrics you keep track of that you've had to learn a little bit about since starting?
How many vacations I take?
Oh yeah.
Not necessarily. We plan out in construction. There's always going to be things that pop up that you can't necessarily plan for or timeline out. So you take your experience, whether it be in that type of a project or what you're doing, and you try to give a fair value to the homeowner. This is how long we think it takes. This is what we charge for our labor. These are the materials that you guys picked out, and you kind of go from there.
Was figuring out pricing in the early stages, how did you do that? I mean, I guess you had several years on the job, but I imagine there's always some uncertainty. Am I charging too much? Am I not charging enough? How do I know?
Yeah,
How do I know what I'm worth?
So like, as far as quoting something, at first, it was very time consuming to quote a project, to make sure you have enough time in there, because owning a business is a lot more than paying yourself or paying an employee by the hour. So if you're off a day or two, it sounds very minute, but it can really affect your revenue or your profit margins on one particular project. So at the beginning, doing estimates took me forever. I mean, I wrote out like daily tasks, and this is what I get done, and this is what I get done the next day, and go over it and over it. And then as far as your material, like down to the screws, things like that, everything, hardware, I mean, every single stick of wood that you're using. So they took me forever. But I think that helped me learn, how to do my job better on the site and how to manage time. And then it was very old school, like online, looking up the local lumber yards, checking out pricing, counts, doing like that, things like that. They took a long time.
What sort of margins do you shoot for?
The best possible margins possible. Or I should say, that we probably shouldn't put that on, but I guess
Well, I think every business is going for 99% margins. The question is, what's attainable?
Yeah. Our goal, I mean, anyone's goal, like you said, that's in business, is to make money. I'm not in business for the long days, the long hours, the headaches, just for nothing, As far as what we'd like to make margin, I don't think there's a specific number, because our jobs vary from small projects to large projects, and some projects just give you more on the backside, depending on how the projects go. But I mean, if we're profitable at the end of the year in a manner that makes it worth being in business, I think we're in the right direction. And they do fluctuate, like I said. I mean, if you're a day short or 2 days short on your bid, or if you get it done fast, so you had a couple of Red Bulls in the morning and you're doing really good on the project, you're going to make more money on that particular project. But there's not something that, like, there's never a time when, if a project goes too slow, that we'll go back and be like, we didn't meet our profit margins, we need more money.
Yeah, that's good. Do you want to close with a rapid fire round? Would that be okay, John?
Let's give it a shot.
Tell me about your goal. Why are you doing all this with True Frame?
I really want to be the best in the area. I want to be that well-known name. I want to be a name that people trust, that they can believe is going to deliver on what they're saying they'll deliver.
What's been the biggest challenge in the last 3 years?
Probably COVID.
What's the most intense project you've ever had?
About a 50-foot deep by 20-foot wide sunroom with 2 guys. Just a massive room.
Second most intense project. I mean, that's crazy. I want to hear more. What's the second most intense?
Second most intense. We did build like this 100-foot long deck. It was like 100 feet wide on the back of the house, like 20 foot out. And I think we built it in like 7 days with 2 guys. That was our first, I think that was one of our first projects in business. I think we had a lot of excitement under our shoes.
And just 3 guys, am I right?
That one was 2 of us, actually.
Just
And
2 of
that's probably why we're a little slower now from that very project itself.
Unbelievable. What's the most surprising thing that you've encountered in 3 years?
The demand for this. It's crazy to see how many people really want this type of work done in Wisconsin, especially too, when it's not beautiful every day of the year.
Do you have any horror stories? What's the worst thing that's happened on the job?
So many horror stories. I mean, I guess I won't call them horror stories, but nothing in particular that I'm like, wow, I hope that never happens again. But there was this one time in July, I remember July, because it was a weird time for us to have a tornado here, and we were building a sunroom in Green Bay. It's about 50 minutes from where I live. And we had some foam in these special ordered traps that we were waiting to get in. And the tornado was in their area and it blew out the traps. And instead of ruining their house, I had to get down there and work around a tornado to get these things back in their windows before their house got soaking wet. That was pretty traumatic. That was pretty intense.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for being a part of Titan Talks. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to have you on the show and hear about your story. We wish you all the best going forward, and I know we'll be hearing from you soon. Thanks so much, Jon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time and the consideration of having me on the show. So thank you.